All right, welcome to the Patch Notes podcast, your one-stop shop for esports news, gaming patch notes, and an occasional interview or two. I am your host, Alex, aka Overlord, and I am joined today by Nathan, aka Goose,
Hello.
and Braden, aka Psychotic.
What's up?
How you gentlemen doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
How about yourself?
You know what, I'm doing just fine. You know what, let's hop into these patch notes here. So these are for Year 5 Season 3, which is the new season for Rainbow Six Siege Shadow Legacy. Comes with an updated map, a chalet rework, and the new operator Zero. So for those of you who are not familiar with Zero, Zero is actually Sam Fisher from the infamous Splinter Cell games from Ubisoft, and his gadget is a cam that is not bulletproof. It has a single fireable laser that can be drilled into any wall or ceiling or hatch, soft or reinforced, and can switch between the sides at will. So tell me, Goose, what were your initial impressions when you saw the design for Zero?
When I first saw Zero, I thought he was going to be a lot more overpowered than he actually is. He seemed like he was going to be very oppressive, but after playing on the test server with him for a bit and seeing other people play with him on the test server, he's actually not the most oppressive op that I've seen in Rainbow, and I think he's actually fairly balanced. So I think Ubisoft did a good job in that department when making Zero.
All right, interesting. So you think that they did a good job in kind of like balancing him and making sure that he had, a good role to play. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like his gadgets. It's not hard to counter, but it's not easy to too easy to counter it either.
I
Like you
see.
still gotta look for them.
Psychotic, what are your thoughts on this new operator?
Um, when I first saw him, I thought the same as Goose. I thought it was going to be bulletproof, and you could just do whatever you wanted with it, and it could go on electrified walls, which it cannot. Uh, right now, I think he's a little overhyped or overrated. Besides his loadout, I don't think his gadget's that strong, unless it's her flank watch, just because of the bright yellow light that it gives off whenever someone is on it. And it's also huge.
Yeah, yep. That is
Yeah,
one thing that I definitely noticed
Massive.
when hopping on the test servers. That it is very noticeable whenever one of his gadgets is shot out. Now, you guys mentioned that you guys thought it would be bulletproof, and would you say that that's not necessarily a good thing that we've seen from Ubisoft lately? Is a lot of bulletproof utility that's hard to clear from attackers.
yeah, I'd say that because most of this game is destroying the other team's utility, which is it's really what it's come to. And when they're making new bulletproof gadgets, it just seems a bit overpowered and hard for people to destroy. I think they should go with an approach like they did with the bulletproof camera. I don't know if they removed it or not, but you can shoot the side of the bulletproof camera and it does get destroyed. And I think that would be if like they had a weakness to bulletproof gadgets when they add them, that might be a good idea. But I think it's a bit outrageous that they're making things bulletproof because the level of utility you have to take out and just how vital that is to the game.
Yeah, and I do think that that's a trend that we've seen is maybe, and I know this was an idea expressed from the YouTube channel Gregor, that perhaps they should maybe make some of the utility from the defenders bullet resistant as opposed to bulletproof. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Psychotic?
Well, when it comes to certain gadgets, like if Zero's gadget was bulletproof, that would be really overpowered. But when it comes to something like a Maestro Cam, they all have their weaknesses. Like Maestro Cams gets Twitch or Thatchered, it opens up and you can shoot it. You can also destroy it with Sledge, Maverick, Kali, any explosive device. Um, Same thing with Malusi, although she is oppressive because she slows you down.
And gives away your position.
You can destroy it by melee. There are certain positions where you can place it up high, and they can't destroy it unless they have an explosive.
Yeah,
That is a yeah.
that is an interesting kind of like yeah. Yeah, they kind of need that utility in order to clear it out. So, moving on from discussions about the new Operator Zero, let's talk about the new map, the reworked Chalet. Now, what were your guys' first impressions when you were looking at this map?
Well, I originally thought it was going to be one of Ubisoft's not so good reworks, but after playing it and learning the map, I am actually very happy that Ubisoft didn't ruin the map like they've done in the past. It's still a very good map to play on, and it's actually still one of my favorites. So,
Yeah, I think I
Well,
definitely can agree with you there about like it being a lot better, a lot more wide open. Sorry, were you about to say something psychotic?
yeah.
Go ahead.
I, I never really liked Chalet a whole ton, mainly because of the main lobby area, how it's so open. And that's one of the things I was hoping for in the Chalet rework was for the main lobby to be more to have more cover. So like that top balcony part over the main lobby, I wish one side of it was at least blocked off. I know the right side kind of is, but you can still look off and see down on the double door. And especially since that room is a OBJ site for secure area, I it just makes it so hard to defend because they added another double door leading in, and there's just another window that leads in, and it makes it really hard to play. But other than that, most of the map is fine. It's obviously a lot wider in hallways for long range gunfights
mm-hmm.
and better mobility. But the rest of the rework is fine.
All right, an interesting take there from you, psychotic. You know, I do think that is an interesting thing that kind of Ubisoft I at least saw in their theme park rework is that they seem to try and take those large open spaces and they try to just water them down into like smaller, more close quarter battles. But I think when we get into the addition of the new sites, which is what's coming up next, you know, I think that what we see is we're going to start to see Ubisoft favor some longer angles because those sites are just so good for the long angles, and you know, so many defenders are not going to have access to the ability to hold angles that I think we will see a shift in the game's meta. What do you guys think about the shift in the meta?
I think there's going to be a lot of 1.5, and I
Yeah, do
think
you?
it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. You were saying?
Goose or me?
You psychotic.
Alright, yeah, I was about to say, meta wise, without ACOG on defense besides the Boss G on Vigil, it probably will make it harder for defense to hold those tighter angles on attackers. And I still think that, you know, they did overboard with those optics because they gave it to so many operators. And I just wish they hadn't have done that. I wish they would have done it for operators who needed balancing changes, not people who just, got them for no reason. Like, I think Maverick was fine with his ACOG. Same with Ace. I don't think they needed to have a reduction in that to a 2.0 or a 1.5 like Maverick got. Same thing with Rook. I wish he kept his ACOG. I know he has a 2.0. Not much less of a magnification, but still a nerf to Rook, even though he isn't even that strong of an operator.
Well, and I
And I
think
think it's supposed to be seen as a buff because
yeah,
he's
because
the one that can spawn
he
peek
is
now.
well, and the thing is he is a favorite among beginners, right? He's got a simplistic kit. You just plop down the rook armor, everybody gets one. So I'm wondering if maybe they're trying to make rook less appealing as a spawn picking option to make it more appealing to beginners and
You
making it
mean
more
more appealing
accessible.
as a spawn peek option?
No, less appealing. Because they are stripping away some of the long angle potential of both Doc and Rook. I understand that they're keeping certain options for Rook for the long range. I think you said what they gave him a 2 times instead of just the 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Doc has the 1.5.
Yeah, so I
They're
think
trying to get people off Doc and playing
yeah, I
Rook is
think
what
they
they're
are
doing.
really trying to get people off Doc, and that's the thing that I've seen in a lot of my matches is just you see those higher level players just absolutely fragging out with Doc, and especially holding those longer angles and getting those spawn peaks off. Like it is just so obnoxious sometimes. So maybe they're just trying to reduce that for the average player.
What I've noticed is ops with similar guns, they'll give different sights based on their win deltas. So if they're like have a high presence, they're gonna try to nerf them by using different sights, which I don't think is the best way to do it, but I think it does work, and it will actually see people switch off of one op to go to another.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've certainly seen already with the likes of Warden and I'm trying to think what was the other Castle. I think both Warden and Castle kind of needed that additional versatility. I know that I've done extremely well with Castle and Warden on the TTS using the 1.5 times, and that does kind of bring us into our next topic, the new sites. Now, I know this has been kind of a controversial subject because I between all the
People
people
love
I've
them,
talked
people hate
to,
them.
yeah, it's either people love them or people hate them. There's no real in between there, and that kind of surprises me because I see a lot of hardcore Rainbow Six fans who are not impressed with the new sights, and I'm wondering is it just because they'd be having to learn new recoil patterns, or because they'd be having to kind of such a sudden change in what's the meta. I'm really interested to hear your guys' takes on the new sites and why you think some of these veteran players are just absolutely hating on them.
Well, with the new sites, I have both love and hate for them. I really like the 1.5. It's not too bulky, and I think the reticle could use some work. But otherwise, I think it's a good site. Now the other sites I don't like too much. I don't like the new Hollow. Definitely, that it's one of the worst sites in the game. The reticle's awful. The model's awful. It's not a good site. But the other sites like the 2x, the 2.5, which is the same as ACOG, so I'm not actually talk about that. So the 2x, 3x, and the new red dot. I don't like how Ubisoft they're cutting down on the barriers of the sites to give you a more open view inside the site, but I don't like how they are cutting off part of your view by putting big knobs and stuff on the side. I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's just going to get people annoyed if someone is exactly in that spot, and I don't think people are going to use those sites because of that.
Psychotic, any thoughts?
I don't mind the new sites. I'm just annoyed that they got rid of the ACOG on most operators, and that you can't choose between different holographic sites or even red dot sites if you want to use the old one
I
on like Jaeger or
I
something.
was gonna say that seems to be something that is also dividing the community a lot right now as well, or rather unifying the community is the new holographic site because I believe from almost everybody I've talked to that it is widely regarded as a very unpopular choice for a lot of
I
operators.
I think I would call it the new red dot. It
You know what?
it's
That might just be apt.
it's just hated by everyone.
Now, with that, obviously, Goose, you talked about using the 1.5 times. I've also talked about using the 1.5 times, and I know that Psychotic, you use the 1.5 times, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, for me, the big question that I still have after looking at all these new sites is what are we going to see as a result in Pro League? Like, how do we think we'll see the Pro League meta shift? How do we think the pros will take these new sites? Do you think that we'll see kind of the old guard of Rainbow Six Pro League upset with the new sites? What do you think we're going to see as a result of this in Pro League?
I honestly don't see much change in the Pro League meta with the sights. I think they're going to be annoyed that they're not going to, like, a lot of guns don't have the sights they used to use on them and maybe have a worse sight. But I really don't see a massive meta change that comes with these sights in Pro League.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion.
me neither. Because a lot of, like right now, most Pro League players call it a getting rid of utility simulator at this point, and that's mainly what Pro League is right now. Is just getting rid of utility and playing off of it instead of like, even though long angles are always held, and that might change it a little bit. But other than that, I think we'll still see the same strats and win rates as usual.
You brought up the idea that Pro League these days is more of a utility clearing kind of game
Simulator.
simulator, and that does leave me to wonder kind of where Jaeger fits in this new meta, because I wouldn't necessarily say in this new meta, but where Jaeger fits in all of this, because at the midseason patch notes, if you'll remember, Jaeger was brought down to a 2-speed 2 armor, and it looks like his pick rate did not suffer. And I as well as many others, I believe that it is a result of a meta that has become overly heavy with throwable gadgets. So, is there any changes that you guys would like to see made to this meta? Is there anything that you guys think would help improve or maybe reduce Jaeger's pick rate or necessity on a team?
I don't want it to happen. It's probably going to happen if Ubisoft listens to some people. But I think the only thing they can do with Jaeger, besides a massive rework of his gadget, is to change his gun and give it to someone else. Because he's already so useful when it comes to gadget-wise that only a rework of his gadget would change that. That I think changing his gun would just make him suffer that little bit to get his presence down.
Well, and that's the thing too, is his win rate is not extraordinarily high. His win rate
Yeah.
is
He's not an overpowered
fairly
operator,
normal.
but he's the required operator.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be real honest, especially with you Goose, I don't think that moving his gun will change that, because I think it doesn't change the issue. Because as Gregor puts it, Jaeger is a symptom of the current meta, right? The reason why his pick rate is off the charts is because he represents and he is a part of the meta that has kind of gradually evolved to take over Siege as we've added new operators, in that it is now gadget clearing simulator. It is now, if you've got a bulletproof here, and if you've got bulletproof utility, and you've got a shield, a deployable shield, you're going to need something to protect that, to prevent
I
the
mean,
defenders from getting smoked
like
out.
I said, without a drastic rework of his gadget, nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, and
And
I know
I've heard thrown around a few ideas, like making his gadget active and not passive
another.
by making it. I know it sound like by rework. So Ubisoft is using new definitions of rework and tweak. Rework is like completely changing the operator as it stands, like they did with Tachanka.
Which we
A
still haven't seen,
tweak,
by the way.
a tweak is changing like a small factor of the operator, like reducing range on a gadget or something like that.
Yeah, and I think another idea that was thrown around there was the idea of Jaeger's gadget being a secondary instead. So he would have a grenade sniping secondary. What are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean by grenade sniping secondary?
Like his secondary would be grenade denial, so he would have to use his secondary. I don't know how it would work exactly, but that was one of the ideas that was thrown around.
So basically, just get rid of a secondary gadget for Jaeger.
Um, no, 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 no. Like a secondary weapon. So like his gun would snipe grenades. But
So like the
it,
underbarrels
kind of, but it would have to
that we
be.
get
It would
from
have to
Buck
be.
and
It would have to be
Ollie.
more active. So it would have to be his sidearm. So if he switched off of his main gun, he could have a grenade denying secondary, which would require him to be an active participant in removing grenades from the situation. Although the common argument that has been raised is that people would take up Wamai instead of Jaeger, except I feel like the people who do that are missing the point. Wamai is not meant to do Jaeger's job, nor is Jaeger meant to do Wamai's job, right? They're both used for very different things, for very different situations, for very different kind of ideas, you know?
Yeah, and this is why I always say Jaeger. The reason why his pick rate hasn't moved at all is because he is the one that can stop grenades
From destroying
effectively.
from like destroying utility.
Like, so am I. He's weird when it comes down to who you're gonna pick, Wamai or Jaeger. Most people are gonna say Jaeger. I think I want to see Wamai get changed a little bit, and so whenever it catches like a grenade or a flashbang or something, it would enclose it, so like a little shield would come around it, and it would detonate inside of that and destroy the Wamai. So you wouldn't have to look away still,
For like a
or
flashbang.
yeah, or like a smoke grenade when it go off. Grenade isn't so much as a big issue with Wamai, except for the fact that if it goes right next to you, then you'll probably die. But when it comes down to Jaeger and you're sitting in one place, Jaeger does it more effectively because there's three of them in one place, and Wamai has to constantly keep throwing them out. I also think Wamai would be better if he started off with 3 discs to
Well,
place down there.
well,
Now, don't get me wrong, Wamai is very strong in Pro League for specific reasons, but he's even stronger with Jaeger. Casual play, Wamai isn't used too often. He's in that balanced area, but compared to Jaeger, everyone goes for Jaeger because they see him as better.
That actually brings up something that I've been thinking about that I think Ubisoft should actually do. You see wildly different play between comp and actual like Rainbow Six Siege, just normal players. And I honestly think Ubisoft should make 2 different sets of the game, which are similar yet different, and optimize patches and stuff for one for the comp game, other than the normal game where they'd maybe optimize different things because the meta is different in normal play rather than comp.
I disagree with that
yeah, I would also kind of have to interject there. I
because
go
I'm
ahead.
not the only one that
Psychotic.
said this.
Yeah,
I know
I
I have heard it
imagine not.
before, but if you are gonna go pro in a game, you need to be pro in that game, not a different version of that game.
Oh, I mean, like the comp version would be available for everyone.
Still, it's not the actual game itself. It's a different version that makes it easier for Pro League players to play in, like Goyo Shields.
Yeah, and I think we would see. I think we would see the Smurf problem would become even worse in a casual version of Rainbow Six.
That's fair.
Because Goyo Shields they're really strong in Pro League, but you don't see Goyo picked too often in casual play. And I think that's because Goyo is stronger when he's paired with a Wamai and Jaeger, which Pro League players use both of those with a Goyo, and they use that Goyo shield combined with a smoke, and it just wastes so much time for a plant.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, and I would say kind of going back to the Wamai thing, and then after that we should probably get back on track. But it's been a good conversation. But I think another thing that could potentially be a buff idea for Wamai is that any grenade, regardless of what it is, would get held in place like an ace does in Wamai trap. So if it gets caught, it gets caught. It gets caught by the magnet, goes there, but then the Wamai has to shoot it, right? Otherwise, the defenders could or the attackers could pick it up. Because I think that would offer a decent balance to it. So it wouldn't immediately explode in your face, but you would have to destroy it in order to get rid of it.
Hmm.
Just a thought. So going back to the year 5 season 3 patch notes, Maverick. This has been an interesting one. So they're increasing his fuel capacity from 5 tanks to 6 tanks. It says that it takes 2.3 tanks roughly to open a hatch, which means he would still only be able to open 2 hatches. What do you guys think about that change?
I mean, I don't mind it. I, I can kind of see a point to it, but at the same time, it's like, okay,
Well, because I feel like their whole point there was like they wanted to make it easier for beginners to kind of pick up him and not accidentally end up wasting more fuel than they needed. Because like I think in the Ubisoft patch notes, let me check here. It says, however, resource management should now be easier to handle for everyone. I think this was more directed at the casual play, kind of saying like, hey, we understand that it's super hard to use Maverick if you don't know what you're doing.
plus, yeah, because there's a bunch of times where like you'll try to destroy something and the torch just doesn't hit it until you're like inside of it, basically. So you can mess that up pretty easily and waste a little bit of fuel.
Interesting. I mean, what are your thoughts, Goose?
Uh, yeah, I don't think it's like it's not a too oppressive buff. It's just like a have some extra stuff in case you mess up. That's all I see it as.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty fair assessment. It's a pretty casual change. Um, Now the elephant in the room that we have not addressed yet, Ping 2.0. Now I I'm gonna be really honest. I am not a huge fan of Ping 2.0. Having been able to use it, I think the only thing that I really like it for is being able to ping the diffuser as the diffuser when a plant is going down. So the Yana buff would allow the clone to use Ping 2.0 as well, and I think that would make. I think that will certainly increase the Pro League usage of Yana. I think we already see a little bit of Yana usage kind of as an intel op, but I think we're going to see even more usage for her in Pro League, as well as I, I don't know how I feel about the whole 2.0 for drones because I think there was a certain aspect of gameplay where it seemed almost balanced that they couldn't ping either on cams or on drones.
And yeah, you can see it as kind of overpowered because now you don't need to spot someone, so they won't know that they've been pinged and can get shot through a wall.
Yeah, it's pretty busted. Because, if you're just on your camera, like if you're Echo or Maestro or something, someone just sits a drone next to you, pings you, and you just get a laser through the wall, not
I
even
think what
knowing
they
how or what happened. It doesn't really give a person a chance, and it's really unfair.
what I think they should do is make it so drones don't have the yellow anywhere ping, but drones can still ping utility and gadgets, so you can still have that small level of communication if you weren't in a call.
I think that would be a fair compromise, but yeah, as of right now, I think Ping 2.0 is kind of OP.
I don't really agree with the ping and gadgets part. Like I still haven't figured out like how like precise it is when you ping something. But if you ping a bandit charge on your drone or something, you know, you can easily just wallbang it. from above or something. And granted, you could just do that with a buck or whatever, but it just makes it so much quicker for an attacker to get rid of that utility, which on one hand is a good thing, but on the other hand, it can create some problems, especially with elemines above doorways that have a destructible surface above it.
Well, and that was a complaint that Pengu had in his video talking about what was wrong with Siege back in like March, I think it was, is that like there is no good way to get rid of goo or not goo elemines because
Yeah,
they were
which
just that
I
overpowered.
I get that, and I hate elemines whenever they detonate on me. But I mean, it's just part of the game, you know. And like the whole drone thing, if it's as precise as I think it is, I don't see a need for an IQ that much. Besides,
I think we might see a phasing out of IQ.
yeah,
I don't know though. It's an interesting system, and I'm excited to see how Ubisoft will kind of play with it. Thatcher, kind of another big update coming is that now his EMP will only be able to disable gadgets as opposed to destroying them. Now,
I know why they did it. I just don't like that they did it.
yeah, it seems to have divided the community on whether or not it is a buff or a nerf. Really, I mean,
It's definitely a nerf.
yeah.
I yeah.
The only way it would be a buff is if you have an incompetent bandit on the other side of a wall.
Well, and I think the reality too is that we're gonna see a lot. I think even in the Ubisoft patch notes, their whole bit was, "Hey, we want your Thatcher to be more involved in the process, so they can't just do their job once and then go and frag out. They've got to be there every step of the way, making sure that everything stays disabled."
I think another part of it is they're tired of Thatcher being banned every round. I don't think they don't like Thatcher being
well,
banned that much.
well, this leads me to my next question. Do you think that this is gonna make Thatcher alternatives look a lot better in comparison? Like a
Oh,
Mav or
definitely.
a Kali?
Definitely. I even think Zero is now a replacement to Thatcher because he can shoot like through walls and shoot the gadget. So that will actually destroy it rather than just disabling it.
So do you think Ubisoft has made a fatal mistake here in kind of trying to overcorrect Thatcher? Do you think that we're going to see like his pick rate or his win rate plummet because of this?
I think we're going to see a massive dip in Thatcher use and bans.
So same thing with the mini hard breach. Um, I don't think they should have messed with Thatcher at all. I wish they had added mini EMPs.
I think that might have been a better addition to the game.
Like, and when I
Yeah.
say mini EMPs, I mean how they're making Thatcher right now. Don't destroy, but disable. And I
That
think that
that
would
might have
be a
been a good
better
addition.
alternative
Yeah, I think that would have been a great addition cuz now
because
Capitao.
people just like when you're bandit tricking, you usually have one or two ADSs on it. Thatcher gets rid of two of those, just like that, and then paired with a Maverick, it makes it really good to open up a wall.
Yeah, and I think the addition of the hard breaches, I think that it's going to increase the number of Capitao bans, honestly, because now Capitao has become a one man push on site, kind of like how we've seen Ace become, and I think Ace is going to see a nerf very very soon. But I think that Capitao's got all of it. He's got the secondary hard breach, he's got the smokes, the fire bolts, and the kit to walk in, bust open a hard wall, and plant. Like I think he's got everything there. I think we will see.
Yeah, he's gonna be like a
Um,
one-man team.
yeah, I
And
think we will see a significant amount of Capitao. I think we'll see a significant amount of Capitao's pick rate increase. I think we might start to see Capitao bans. And I think Ubisoft might have made him just a little bit too powerful.
This is one thing that annoyed me was whenever I mentioned the mini EMP grenades before, people were always like, "What is the point of having a Thatcher then?" But when you look at the mini hard breach, you know, it's like, what is the point of a Hibana or something, and it comes down to, well, Hibana still has more utility than that
and
one
they
little
and they
mini
fill
cartridge.
out like a different niche. Like it's like the
And
Jaeger Womai. It's the same thing. It's
Thatcher
they're in the same
would,
field, but they're not the same
Thatcher
game.
would still be able to do more than the mini EMP. So like you might only get like 1 to 2 mini EMP grenades that disable and have a shorter range, whereas regular EMP grenades from Thatcher would destroy and have a longer range.
Yeah, I think we could see a significant amount of play from that. That is certainly something that could happen. Last but certainly not least, reinforced roof hatches. What do you guys think of that? I personally, I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. I think Ubisoft is going to remove it before it hits the
They
live.
they, they already have.
Yeah,
Have they already removed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish there were a way for defenders to reinforce them,
there will be.
but
There will be
but
when the new season hits. Year 5 season 4. It's unconfirmed at this point.
yeah, leaks. Let's specify
yeah.
that
Let's
leaks.
specify that this is a leak. This is not necessarily official information from Ubisoft.
And she's not. She doesn't do reinforcement.
She does. She has a laser reinforcement.
It's
But is it doorways or walls specifically?
it's a quote unquote laser reinforcement. It does not
It does not substitute
reinforce.
for reinforcement. That is correct.
More like cap. It's more like
I
a cap.
think we forgot to mention the reinforcement pool.
Oh yes, yes. I think that is something that we totally should mention. So defenders now split a pool of 10 reinforcements instead of each defender being limited to 2, and I think this is going to be a major quality of life improvement. I mean, from what I've played on from what I've played on the TTS, it makes everything better because roamers can go roam, anchors can anchor, and reinforce everything. And I think it'll make dry running and a lot of the aspects of competitive and pro league even better for kind of working on that kind of stuff.
I like it especially when I'm playing Jaeger because it takes a bit of time to put down a lot of ADSs and barbed wire. It takes most of the action phase, and I'll maybe have time for one reinforcement. And I like it because it gives me more leniency with my setup. I can get all my ADSs and barbed wire down, and then maybe get a reinforcement. And if I only get one down and I can't get two, then I don't have to worry about it because someone else can reinforce at the same time. It's just a really nice thing for me.
I like it's really good, but at the same time, if you're just if you don't play with a full 5-man and you just like, yeah, I'm gonna play some ranked, and someone's trying to throw on your team, they can use a lot of your team's reinforcements on some useless walls if they wanted to, and mess you up really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was something that I pointed out at the beginning, but
that's the only
it's
problem that I can see
negligible.
with that.
It's negligible compared to the amount of good I've seen done with the pulled reinforcements. Because
Yeah.
then, if a teammate leaves or something, you still have those 10 reinforcements, so you're not immediately put at a disadvantage, or at least as big of a disadvantage because you have a teammate that is not there. Anything else you guys want to discuss?
I think you got everything.
All
I
right.
think we're good, unless you want to talk
Alright.
about match replays.
Oh yes, I keep forgetting about match replays because I don't feel like Ubisoft. I feel like Ubisoft begrudgingly added match replays. I don't think they really wanted to do it.
Well, there's a lot of glitches with it right now.
It is a super glitchy system. I'm not super impressed by match replays right now. I'm not. Given it is in like the alpha, but like it is seriously low quality for something that people have wanted for so long.
I mean, it's also not going to live. It's staying on the TTS.
And it's hard to navigate.
It is really hard to navigate. It's very
There's
clunky to
no-
use.
There's there's nothing to tell you how to switch between certain things,
Yeah, there's no tutorial or instructions on how to do it.
and you just gotta figure it out.
I think that is
One
the
thing
major
I
downside
do
of it.
have to say that I figured out with it. So how you wouldn't be able to see people's scopes when they'd ADS on the replay?
Yes.
I know why now.
Why?
It's because Ubisoft changed the way they make scopes. originally in the game, scopes used to be a physicalized object on top of the gun, but now with the new scopes and like with the colors and stuff, they're actually GUIs on your screen and not physicalized objects. So I think they're having trouble with getting the GUI to show up on the replay.
Interesting. So that's something we'll definitely have to keep an eye on, is how do they improve that match replay system, especially when so much stuff is player side instead of client side. Or it's
You mean
client side is player side
yeah,
instead of
side
server
rather than
side.
server side?
Yeah. It's been a long day. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Cover for the new season?
No.
Nope. All right. Well, this has been the first episode of the Patch Notes podcast. Make sure, if you are watching this on YouTube, to give it a like. Maybe consider subscribing. And hopefully next week we will have an interview with a T3 caster for a competitive series. See you next time on the Patch Notes.